So welcome everyone to Fly Female Founders. For those of you who are new, we have been evolving since 2016, 2017. So our messaging has really progressed. So we are now officially a nonprofit. So we are an inclusive community nonprofit organization. Whew, that's what we are. We're founded in 2018, and we're really a group of women that are committed to helping women build successful businesses together. Our programming is focused in 3 areas: education, inspiration, and connection. And for some of you, you know that we used to meet in person, and it was amazing. Meeting online has been great during COVID, but when we met in person, the energy was contagious. So we're a fast-growing group of over 1,000 small business owners, solopreneurs, doesn't matter what you call yourself, side hustler, freelancer, but we come from a very broad range of backgrounds and industries, and now cities and states, because now that we're not focused on in person, we attract people from all over, Tennessee, California. So, and we come together to share our stories, to share our expertise, and most importantly, to share our support of one another. And we welcome you all today to this exciting program. And we encourage you all to invite the other women and women identifying small business people in your life to join us. We're trying to make as much of our programming free as possible. So if you have any ideas for grants or sponsorships, let us know. And I just want to introduce you, before I introduce you to one of our co-founders, Laura Migno, if you could raise your hands, but there's a number of our other co-founders online with us today. There's Carol Toot, Shweta Vikram, and I don't know if any of the other gals are here.
No, Nancy can't make it, and Laura.
Okay, great. So we're the original women who started the group, and so with that, I'm going to introduce Laura Migno, our charismatic and well-connected colleague who runs D-Flash, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the incredible women who have given us our time today for all 3: inspiration, education, and connection. So with that, I turn the floor over to Laura.
Thanks, Felicia. Hey, everyone. How's everybody doing? So I think this is the most global event we've had, because I see that someone's here from Egypt and from Mexico, but also Miami and California. So wonderful. We are so excited to be joining you today. And I am personally thrilled to have these 2 phenomenal women come join me on this panel today. When we talk about being an entrepreneur, oftentimes it's like, oh, it's so difficult to be a woman founder. It's blah, 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 blah. But when you find 2 women who not only are doing the damn thing, but doing it phenomenally well, but then also lifting as they climb, you've got to grab them and be like, hey, can you come talk on the panel and tell people how you did that? Because that's what's necessary at this moment. We've got to tell those really incredible stories. So I am thrilled to introduce Felicia Hatcher and Sheree Holmes-Jones. And we're going to have a great conversation around literally how they did this and what keeps them going and why they keep inspiring as they go. So with that, we'll kick this off. So ladies, and let's start with Felicia since she just got here. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do.
Did you say you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Good morning, ladies. One, thank you for your patience. I apologize being late. It is still full swing of homeschool and triple booking, and my husband not telling me he had 11 o'clock as well. But that is the life of a female entrepreneur for sure. And so I'm happy to be here. Laura, thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Felicia Hatcher. By day, I am the co-founder of a really brilliant organization that I founded 6 years ago with my husband called the Center for Black Innovation, where we are an ecosystem building organization and a think tank that really believes culture is an asset and that we can build smart cities and smart communities and innovative communities and making sure that we're increasing the innovation potential of Black communities here in Miami and then ultimately across the nation with the hopes of having a long-lasting impact across the globe. And then I am an author as well. And I have 2 really awesome kids, a 7-year-old daughter who taught me the biggest lesson about what it means to be the strength of what women are. and what we can be. My daughter was born as a micro preemie weighing 1.4 pounds when she was born. And I literally saw what it means to get 1% better every single day without even understanding the resources that we all now have, but at that young age. And so that is the story I always like to tell because it has shaped my life and every step that I move forward. It has given me so many different levels to my why. And then I'm an inclusive innovation and personal transformation speaker. And so I love helping women, especially, step into their zone of genius, stop doing things that are in their zone of low return, and really help you fully understand and live in your zone of opportunity in every single day. And so I'm excited to join this panel and be a part of this conversation.
Awesome, Felicia. See, and that's why you're here. And Marjorie, I'd love to hear your introduction and who you are.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Sheree Holmes-Jones, hailing to you from Nashville, Tennessee currently. I am the owner of Mojo Marketing and PR here in Nashville and in New Orleans, where I'm originally from. We are a full service advertising, marketing, and PR firm. I've done this 18 plus years. It's what I knew I wanted to be. I just didn't know how to say it at 14. I wanted to tell everybody about everybody else's business and passions. And so I went to school for PR and had a mama who really just listened to every dream I spoke out while she was driving me to school and found a way for me to be cultivated early on. So by the time college came, I was just blessed with great opportunities and able to get into the industry and have been for many years. As a result, I've been many firsts in this industry as advertising is still in 2020, the pandemic. Still needing the change to fight the equities of our creativity, Black creativity. And so I remember sitting in the seat of 500 in Detroit, Michigan, working for an automotive brand. And there was 5 Blacks and I was like, whew, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm just gonna get here and just do my best, wear my suit, not move around, don't say nothing, don't touch me, I don't know, right? Like hesitant to do the wrong thing, but proud at the same time. Now that dream beget me launching my own from that cube. I remember sitting in that cube and dreaming about being my own agency owner. I didn't know how I was going to be it. I didn't know if I knew enough at the time. I was just a baby in the industry. Now, 18 plus years later, we own the only African-American owned full service agency in Nashville, Tennessee. Came here with that dream, dreamed about it many a times, and it's come to life. It required a lot of work. It required me to really like coach myself. So I love that Felicia is a coach, but it required me to coach myself and get past those crying days when money didn't look right, when the clients didn't act right, when it just didn't pan out as what you dream, especially when you're a passionate person like myself. I get passion. I'm empathetic enough to be passionate about your passion. And so we're now here, award-winning, successful, multi-6 figures, and growing, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. See, I don't have to do much. I'm gonna let you two talk. My favorite kind of panel. So, Felicia, for you, what made you decide to get into the entrepreneurship journey?
I was not one of those kids, and I have to go all the way back there, that like started the lemonade stand or sold the ants or any of those things. I sold the hell out of some Girl Scout cookies though. And that for me was like my first kind of entree into what it was, but still not understanding entrepreneurship, right? My mom worked at the tax collector's office, and I realized really quickly that she would get a lot of traffic. And I'm like, I can go door to door with these cookies like the rest of the girls in my troop, or I could literally have my mom set like a little cookie sign up at her desk because thousands of people were going in and out of getting like their car registrations. And that's how I sold. And I realized like, hey, I'm resourceful. And all of these are really great characteristics and attributes of becoming an entrepreneur. And then I was also a really horrible employee for a lot of the companies that I worked for. I worked for Nintendo in experiential marketing. I worked for Sony as a regional marketing manager, launching the Sony ebook reader that should have been the iPad, but that's a whole other story. I worked for the NBA as well as a front office marketing manager, freezing my butt off in Minnesota because I'm a Florida girl. And when I say it was a horrible employee, I showed up and I did my work, but I kept getting this kind of itch, like, is this the best that I can do with my gifts? And I could not answer that question. But what I could answer at the time was not so much what I wanted to do, but a long list of the things that I knew that I did not want to do, the ways that I did not want to compromise myself or my time anymore, and really kind of setting like some immutable laws, right? Lines that I was no longer willing to cross in order to achieve success in those areas. And so I think if we're not careful, we end up stealing from the people that we hope we're contributing our best intentions, because I wasn't showing up as my whole self. And it was a lot of that, right? And then it was also losing my job in 2008 when the economy tanked. You know, if I could have gotten a job during that time back in my field, I probably would not be on this Zoom with you lovely ladies today, because I liked what I was doing enough to like stay there, right? And I often tell people sometimes a good paying job will stand in the way of you following your dreams just as much as a bad paying job. And that was also me at 2008. And so I would say either the universe or God or like, you know, the economy kind of conspired to push me towards following this idea that I had at the time. I ran a gourmet popsicle manufacturing company for 7 years. So if you ever Google Felicia and you say technology and popsicles, what do those two things having to do with me? Me is what they have to do. And I love, and that was like I started my first business in college, but like my first real serious business was Feverish Pops, which was a gourmet popsicle manufacturing company that had clients like Google and PayPal and Forever 21 and Airbnb and Tom Cruise, like Fortune 500 client roster that would absolutely make your head spin. And we figured out this really unique niche. But I started that after the economy tanked. And so it was all those things that kind of led me to entrepreneurship in the way that I've been an entrepreneur for the past 12 years.
Love it. Yeah, and it's so true. It's like, you know, if you get comfy, that will be like, I like to leave. I mean, I have this conversation so many times with so many friends who are like, well, maybe I'll come to your side of the house. And I'm like, first of all, it's not easy over here in entrepreneur land. But if you get so comfy that you don't want to leave, then you leave the good after bad. And then that's, you know, that is also an issue that you run into. From Montreal, for you, what was the moment for you where like, yep, I need to get out and do this on my own?
You know what? Felicia and I are either twins or life cycle twins, because 2008 was that year. I had been doing all of the volunteering, and, you know, friends were asking me to do stuff on the side. And I ran, you know, I'm in-house at Caesars Entertainment at the same time. I've done 10 Fortune 500s by this point, either in-house on the agency side or out of house. And I actually had done experiential. So when I heard her, I was like, okay, we're twins. So 2008 hit, and the casinos had never gotten hit before. And they were recession proof, everybody said. And I sat at my desk and I watched the CEO of all of the casinos keep coming to New Orleans. And my little forecasting mind said, why would a man who runs all of these properties, and Vegas is dying, keep coming here? What is happening here? Well, I sat there and I looked at my team of 7 and I said, oh, they're skinning the cat. And sure what? And sure enough, that was the result. We were very top heavy. And we had supervisors, directors, whatever, and it just made sense. But I also had that itch because folks were I was doing it for free. And finally, you know, I'm scared though, doing it for free and scared to leave that pension and that check, honey, because it was a blessing. And but it was always the dream at the same time. My father was an entrepreneur. I knew that I had it in me. I just didn't think I was ready. Well, fast forward, the opportunity came and I was like, you know what, you don't have to let me go. I'm gonna go ahead and leave. Exercise left. I did have moments early on where I felt like I was getting comfortable. So that's why I was volunteering and doing all these different things. Literally I was running a Girl Scout troop. Bring that back to Felicia. We have so many synergies. I literally had started an all-Black Girl Scout troop in my neighborhood. I didn't have time for myself, and I'm starting a Girl Scout troop. I mean, we're just overacting because I really was not content with my gig. Well, fast forward, I took the leap. Government contractor, marketing, heading up a big project post-Katrina. And that itch helped me because it was commission based. Who did that? Who does that? Wow. At first entrepreneur endeavor and it's commission based. Like, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
But I did it and was successful at it. And then that itch turned into everything that we needed. So I knew then in 2008 that, okay, I'm not going to be pushed out. I'll go ahead and start something else, and it helped.
Awesome. And I think that's the thing. Like, you have that moment where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I have to go. And then you're done. And like, I think, similarly, I had this also 2008 for me. So also, you know what that also was? When everything went to hell with the economy. So I think it was a big moment for a lot of us in terms of trying to figure out what we needed to do next. Like, 2008 was great. And then January 2009, it all went, but look where we all are now. So it was the right time. And I think the thing about all this is that when you get to a point when you've been in your business, so you've been at it a few years, what keeps you going? What keeps inspiring you to keep building and growing? So Felicia, I know that you have 19,000 businesses. What keeps you to keep going and keep building and inspiring along the way?
Yeah, a lot, it's one, I have some really big, bold, badass dreams that I'm not there yet, right? And so that's a big part of it as well. The impact that I want to leave or have is not, I'm inching closer to it every single day, but I'm not there yet either. And so it's really those two things, right? And then it's my parents. Like, they are the two biggest people I owe the most to. I say I owe them the biggest return on their sacrifice. And there's some things that I want to make happen for them as well that I'm not there yet either, right? So those are the things that really keep me going. And then when I think about the work that I'm in, right? And so being in tech, realizing the disparities, realizing the issues or the barriers that exist for the entrepreneurs that we work with to get access to not just capital, but the respectable amount of capital so that they can really truly build the thing that they're building. And continuing to have the same conversations that I had 6 years ago to exhaustion. But there's also a shift, especially here in South Florida, that's been happening, right? And so I feel like all of Silicon Valley is doing a mass exodus to Miami. And so there's a lot that needs to be done from an infrastructure standpoint as well to make sure that there's equitable capital that's available for the entrepreneurs. And we've made some amazing strides, but we also have a long way to go. And so those are some things. And then my kids as well. I'm gonna keep harking back to them because I want them to live in Miami. I want them to be able to stay here, and I want whatever possible dream that they have to be able to, every resource that they could possibly need be at arm's reach, right? Like, if they want it, they can find it without having to deal with any of the BS that I've had to deal with in order to access that. And I can't ensure that yet, but I hope at the time where they start really moving forward on their dreams that the pathway, the community, the ecosystem that we're building is very conducive to them to be able to live out their dreams full out.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone and their mom is moving to Miami, and you're like, okay.
Miami's full. I saw Kim Kardashian post yesterday that she's thinking about moving to Miami. I was like, can we tell her Miami's full? Miami's full.
Close the airport. Close a lot of the airports that you can't sneak in the other way. Like, no, do not let the Kardashians in, because then it is over. But it is fascinating to see how all of a sudden folks woke up and I'm like, Felicia, you've been at this for quite a while. Like, you're like, this is not new. You all just discovered this, but like, don't be a colonizer. So I totally understand. And for you, Lingerie, so you're in Nashville. Like, what keeps you building and growing in Tennessee?
Well, being originally from New Orleans, I double dip. I'm multi-city living. And so prior to COVID, I was in New Orleans every month because we do have about 40% of our clients there. And so I was living the best of both worlds. Nashville's the it city, and New Orleans is going to always be everybody's city. It's the place that we all love. And so I can only get about a week fixed, and I'm like, all right, I love y'all, I'm gone. Because I know New Orleans that well. But I would tell you that, I mean, having a great upbringing and not a perfect upbringing, that's two different terms. We can never talk about having a perfect upbringing in this America, but at the same time, being lower income, Black in New Orleans, we got stories to tell, but I just had great love. I come from two great parents who understood love and articulated love really, really well in their own way. As such, they named me Mon Chéri, which means love. And I kind of have just taken that to my life mantra. When I first got out and I was struggling and selling and marketing and understanding this thing, I was having heart palpitations and anxiety and didn't even know what that was. I was like, Black people don't have anxiety. What is this? What you talking about? I don't have anxiety. And it was that I was that naive. But I remember, meeting with a doctor, and he was like, you're fine. And I was like, really? And so then I figured, okay, well, maybe I just need to find a way to calm myself down. And we're almost 11 years in when I started that mantra of love your minutes. If I get nervous and if I, just get anxiety, it's not even about that anymore, as much as I start my day with just reminding myself, how am I going to love my minutes today I have 10 meetings? Or how am I going to find a moment to just really just dwell on the fact that I own an agency. I dreamed about this. I did it. It's here. If tomorrow we make no more money, I still did this thing. Okay. I live in a place where I decorated my house. We get to say these things, and it's even the small things. I get to walk my dog amid COVID. I welcome the pause from the pandemic because I had more time to just figure out me. I didn't lose no weight. I probably put on some weight, but I'm still fine. Life goes on. I'm still creative. I eat well. Hello. But at the end of the day, like, I can love on my people, and I sent a mass text out to my crews of families yesterday. That was my way of loving my minutes. That's saying, hey, love, I love y'all. Just sending that out. That's like my respite. It keeps me calm. And so the world happens and it comes with its drama. Like this week has had all kind of drama, but just being able to kind of just be able to speak and meet new people that would never meet me, it's kind of dope.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And it's funny because I've met you both in varying universes. So like Andre, I met like 3 weeks ago. Felicia, I've known for 1,000,001 years, but we never actually met in person until a year ago.
Year before.
And it's funny because like you come, I think that's the thing about entrepreneurship, whereby like you find your tribe, and they can be in different places, and you can kind of pick up, but we all have that same kind of like, we're just gonna keep this moving, and as part of that, enjoying the moment that we're in, and not forgetting that, this is actually pretty amazing that we've been able to build these sorts of things, and giving yourself the pat on the back is necessary as you begin to grow your businesses, because you have come so far from the idea on the napkin to all right, there's an office. There are people who send me checks that clear. So that is of paramount importance. So of course, obviously the last year, COVID. So how were you all able to adapt? What were some lessons learned that you had over the course of the past year? Felicia, how about you?
Yeah, I have to start from something that Marjorie said. Marjorie, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's Mon Chéri.
Mon Chéri, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
So I have to start from something like the pandemic of this last year was some of the most rest that I've ever gotten in my professional career, and absolutely needed, right? Like that stillness was so necessary, because I mean, a lot of my, prior to that, right, 2020, 2019, I was on a plane every week for the entire year, right? So not just we ran 14 conferences in 2 years across 9 cities, in addition to having to be at South by Southwest and do all the things. And I was exhausted. And so it was that. And then kind of thinking a global pandemic is where most of us are getting the most needed rest that we've ever gotten. There's something there as well that did not sit well with me about that, and kind of the pace in which we have to run in order to keep up, right? Achieve our dreams, be able to, make the connections, to build the relationships, to get the customer, like all of that. And so what has been my biggest lesson from that? One is rest. Two is setting very big and very bold, unapologetic boundaries as well. And then the other part of that, I've also got to spend the most time with my family, like all of my family than I have in a really long time. So that has been a reward, if we can talk about silver linings in the pandemic. And then the other part of that is, I lost my train. Oh, that I did not have to do all that, right? Like that was it as well, right? And so the way that we did business prior to the pandemic, we cannot do business like that moving forward. We should not do business like that moving forward. And if we're really talking about empowering women entrepreneurs, and I know the self-care question is coming up, but really truly defining that past an Instagram post of like a bubble bath, into really injecting that into the type of lifestyle that we hope our businesses make way and make room for us is really a really important lesson for me. And then the other part is like also being able to celebrate wins during tough economic times. Like we raised $3 million in 2020 for our work. My speaking business, like it completely dived in March, and then it popped right back up by like June. And my clients like Spotify and Google and Target still paid my full fee, even literally delivering it in this exact room, in this exact setup. Might even have been in this exact dress, I don't remember. But like, and so being able to also celebrate that way, which is hard, right? It has been really hard during a pandemic with so much going on, the sheer amount of death and tragedy and despair and financial tragedy as well. But I think as women, if we can create safe spaces where we can say, you know what, I had a conversation with my friend and who we were just talking about like, everything that happened in the pandemic, how hard it like punched all of us in the gut. Like it wasn't the worst that happened to me as an entrepreneur in 2020. Like my go through happened years ago to prepare me to be able to weather the storm of this moment. And so for some of us, like that tragedy, that despair, the sheer loss of clients, sheer bottoming out happened to us far greater in other times in our life that have just given us the armor. And the not even the superwoman shield, but just the armor to be able to, like, I've been through this before. I can guide my company in the right way. And I can also guide my circle to say, you are going to be okay. You're going to come out on the other end of this, because all of us that are surviving, that woke up this morning, have a strength that we did not even know it existed February 25th of 2020, and we're still here. And so those have been my biggest life lessons. And I think we'll all be studying 2020, 2021, 2022 for a really long time, if we in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Awesome. And it's true. I think one of the most impactful things about 2020 is that we all realized actually we're way more resilient than we ever thought we could be, because like not only did we survive that, we came through it, and now we're thriving. And it doesn't matter whether or not you've blown your business up or whether you're still coming. You made it through a pandemic, and you with your wits about you. So I think it's so important to remember how important, especially as women in business, we hear so much jibber jabber about how it's tough to be a woman-owned business, but celebrate the fact that resilient as hell is who we are. And Sheree, how about for you? How did you all have to adapt during COVID and survive and thrive?
Yeah, I would say, February and March, I kind of knew something was coming because of my attachment to New Orleans and just the health community. One of the top managers of healthcare hospitals, HCA, is here in Nashville, and they're a client. And so we had been hearing some murmurs since November about this COVID disease. But we also were selected as top 100 event marketing agency by Event Marketer right in February, March. And I had the Junior Olympics, I had Essence Festival, I had a list of upcoming events that physically would just change our scope of everything that we had going on. We were about to be at South by Southwest, and then it just went, I was like, oh, you're leaving. Okay. But it wasn't an initial scare. Like March, I was like, oh, I like this. Let's take a break. April, I was like, oh yeah, this is another break. I don't mind it. Okay. May, I was like, okay, now what y'all doing? Okay, what is going on? Let's figure this out because hold up now you're going too far. And it's so reality check set in because I was like, okay, let me look. I had kept staff on. I'm trying to make sure that I don't leave people hanging, but I'm like, we have lost everything, probably about 60%. But I'm glad because I always, when I grew up in the advertising industry, so I have a PR degree, I know media planning, I've been an account manager, so I've managed teams. So I know the breadth and depth of advertising, marketing, and PR. And we never kept our clients just to one thing, even though it was our sweet spot. So we had that experiential pool of clients that was about 50 to 60%, but we had a strong 40 that was that 40% that was clients that we did all kind of great stuff for to amplify and level them up. And what they did, they became more focused on their authentic mission and their authentic brand. And they brought other people like that. The phone started ringing June. Government clients, whatever, like United States Postal Service was going through, and that has been a client for years. And it started ringing, and it went from no work to, oh, I'm 3 nights a week at 3 a.m. I'm talking to a director. Sir, we are not going to do that, anymore. But I was grateful, so I did it anyway, right? That has turned us into, we basically made our money back and plus. And so that's the struggle was there, the pain was there, but the confidence that I didn't need to pivot, because every one of my clients was trying to pivot, and I just have always done marketing, advertising, and PR. I'm not I do speak. People ask me to speak often, but it's about marketing, advertising, and PR and branding. Like, I'm blessed to know my gift and to really hone it and cultivate it. So I didn't jump ship and start doing something else. I actually was very, very hesitant to that. And so I kind of told people, I was like, don't jump ship if you really, this is what you do. Maybe just pivot a little bit, find a new vertical, but don't jump ship from the actual authentic brand vision, because that's God-given. If we're being truthful, if you're an entrepreneur doing what you are passionate about, that's something that you've gotten from your God, whoever your God is. And that's a vision that you have. And so why pivot completely from it? Because the world says it's dead. I find verticals in many ways. And so I help some clients to kind of find those new verticals. So we struggled, but we won.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think about that. And similarly, I was on a plane every month for the last 9 years. And I got back to New York on February 17th after being on the West Coast. And I was on 4 planes in 6 days. And I remember thinking, oh, there's this thing happening. My mom being very much like, you stop flying because this is bad. And she's a nurse. And so I always kind of take it, yes, mom, whatever. And then I think back on that, like, okay, so like, if I wasn't supposed to be here, then I would have caught COVID on one of those flights because I wasn't wearing a mask. I was going from place to place. And so, taking that moment of like, actually, I can go further than this. It doesn't matter. Yeah, similarly, like, we're an events company. It's like, and then we weren't. So, but having that moment and that time to actually think and kind of really get into what actually it is I do came in so handy, so that not only could we rejigger our business and expand upon our services, but like get to the heart of why I want to do all this stuff. Like, what is the point around doing this? And here we are now, a year later, and like, yesterday I hit a button to sign like our biggest contract in our 10-year history. So it's one of those, oh, thank you. But it's one of those things where, like, as I'm saying, like, the level of resilience that we have is so important for us to remember that, like, we can get through this even though it's difficult. And we're getting questions, so I'm gonna ask. So question from Michelle Bardias is, if you could clone yourself and send her off to do her own thing, what do you think her focus and her goals would be?
Oh, it's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Because I contemplate that often, and I'm trying to see what she does, what she needs to do today. If I clone myself, I would have her take all my meetings and give her and have her deal with all the charming parts in the cultivation and the client relations, because I love my client, but I am a creative at heart, and I'm in the work too. And I've been missing out being in the work because we are having more meetings. We're at Zoom overload. That is not going to go away. I literally had 10 meetings yesterday, and I don't want to look at today. And understanding that, because you meet more, they may be shorter meetings because I've mastered the 20-minute meeting. Let's get to the 20-minute. We don't need 30 minutes. No, we don't. So getting to that point, but I would have her take all the meetings and just be the true little PR marketing girl she can be. And I would be over there, like at least managing these folks and cultivating them, because as we've grown, we've hired 3 people in a pandemic and new people. And now I feel like I don't have time for them, and at this. So I don't want to get to the fact that Mojo, who creates culture and celebrates culture, cannot make their own culture. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and so true. How about you, Felicia?
Yeah, I would say I would have that clone take my meetings for me too, but probably I would really have them take my Peloton classes for me. So, but I would still get the health benefit and still lose the weight. They would just do the
You're
work.
thinking. I need to think like that. That's good thinking.
That is a good strategy. Like, I completely understand. Another question is, like, for you all, what's sort of the morning routine? Do you how do you do you have any kind of good morning hacks or routine ways to sort of manage your respective mornings so you can kind of get up and get moving?
Yeah. I try to be up at 6:30 in the morning before everyone else in my house wakes up. And I will do a quick prayer, brush the teeth, go outside. I have an amazing view on my balcony, so I try and cherish that. And then I usually try and knock out like 1 or 2 very big projects or very big emails before I really kind of start my day. That's been my routine in the mornings. I'll usually then take a little bit of a break. So sometimes I will go, if I wake up earlier than 6, I will actually take a disco nap for about 30 minutes. And then I will restart my day. And then I don't take meetings before or phone calls before usually, I try to do 10 o'clock is the earliest that I have my assistant be allowed to schedule anything for me. And that's also just for me to ease into my day a little bit more, get all the whatever random kids like this morning, right? So any random kid stuff that usually comes in the way, it doesn't then disrupt kind of my work day. And then I either bury myself in my home office, or I go, like, we own a co-working space, an urban innovation lab, or I'll go there to work and kind of kick off the day from there.
Cool. Yeah, disco naps are awesome.
Listen, I put a couch in my office just for that, disco nap. Okay? I didn't call it that, but that's what they'll be called from now on. Promise. I love it. Now, I would say, so I'm a doggy mom. So getting up, my husband and I both work obviously I'm an entrepreneur. He has a full-time gig heading up a factory. So he has a lot of things going on. So we only have a couple windows in the middle of the week for our time. So once he's up, which he's up and loud, so it's unavoidable to sleep, him and the dog have their conversations, and I get up and I join them and kind of have that moment. Then I, force us to be like loving dog moms and go take a little walk with our dog mom and parents. And then from there, I kind of come back, and then I get into the emails. And I really have been avoiding spending a lot of time in the emails before 9 o'clock, or because I already know what I looked the day before. I'm old school. I already know what I have, but I'm just doing a quick little glance. And even if I see bold stuff coming through, if it's coming in at 7, it's an emergency for you. And it's not an emergency for me. But if you're calling my phone, then okay, let me see if I can help you out, because that means it's really, it's like 911. But if it's just an email, I really don't need to address it until I sit at that desk. And so that's just to kind of give my time. I like to read Daily Carnage, which is a marketing email that is hella funny, but all great survey tips and content, just to kind of see, well, who else out there is doing what in the marketing world. I read Hustler and I read Trends. And those are my 3 that I kind of knock out. I don't care about the news until the news knocks on my door. The news has really not been the best in the last pandemic. And I am a creative and I have to stay positive. Then I can catch my news midday when somebody's saying, oh yeah, they blew up 2nd Avenue in Nashville. It's like, oh, that happened. I'm pray for those folks. But I mean, if you start your morning with toxicity, I just cannot. So I really like to control my environment and my peace and really ease into the day. Now I'm a night owl too, so I can rock all night, but in the morning, please don't touch me. It's like, I don't need coffee, but I don't need your drama neither. Keep it. So that's kind of my vibe.
Awesome.
What is
I
the marketing newsletter? Somebody's asking, so we just
Or Daily Carnage is one and Hustler is the other. And so
like
both
Hustler Magazine?
no. But it's an email blast. If you type in hustler with the A. Sorry, I said hustler. It's hustler with the A. You will for marketing, it's really, really good. They show you all the surveys. So like today's post or yesterday's post was like, anybody's using AI for launching, and everybody goes in and answers. It's like, oh, so everybody's using that for their emails now. Okay, good to know. You can find out what trends are working. Yes.
Awesome. Just chock full of great tips. So, it's interesting because, we're all here now as adults and all the work that all the great work that we do. Like, what do you think you'd tell 25-year-old you?
What would I tell 25-year-old me?
I'm gonna let the week to go.
I know it was last week.
I would say, right, it was last week. What would I tell myself last week? I would say, pay off that Discover card that you got as a freshman in college because you wanted the free t-shirt. Pay that off. So I would tell that to my 25-year-old self for sure. I would say, dream really, really big right now, because that was about the age where I started Feverish Pops. And, ask really, really big, like $1 million questions. Stop asking like $30 questions. I always quote Tony Robbins. He says, the quality of your life is largely dependent upon the quality of your questions. So always ask high quality questions because they lead to insight that allow you to make your next best move. And so I would also tell myself that. And then stop being a wallflower. Like I talk a lot now, and no one would believe that I'm still a functioning introvert, but no one would believe that I was a serious introvert. Like I would show up to the rooms that I knew I wanted to be in, but I would not say a peep, I would not say a word, did not know how to start a conversation, was so in my head. And I would say, stop all of that. You have ideas and you have contributions, and the people that you were around at that time needed to hear those things. That's what I would say to my 25-year-old self.
Love it.
Same here. I was the same introvert who now talks for a living. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to talk to people ever. It's very strange now that I talk for a living. How about you, Sheree?
Well, I was a shy extrovert. How about that? I was easing into it. Now I've always loved talking. And once you got me going, honey, I was like, we best friends. Come on. But I love that. Ask $1 billion questions. That's dope. One of the things I did, I was a reader. Always a reader. 14. I had all the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, honey. Chicken Soup for the Soul, African American, Chicken Soup for the Soul, women. I was reading them all, looking for inspiration at such a young age. And then I got to my 20s and I had dreamed a dream, and I was dreaming a dream. But then I paused on acting on the dream. I felt like I needed more. And I think I would tell her, Marjorie, you got it all. You got everything you need. Like, stop pausing. Stop looking around for more ways to firm up. Be credible. But I think that's also an issue of women in entrepreneurship. It wasn't just me. We hadn't seen a lot of women in entrepreneurship. I saw them in jobs in my particular field at the time. I knew of one big agency that had a woman leading at the time. And so I wanted that specific experience. And I think I kept looking for that. And, we always like to make sure that we're legit. I'm big about craft. I talk a lot about craft. Social media has made it where everyone is a creative, and that doesn't take away from it, but strategy beats creativity all day long. If there's no plan, I don't care how pretty that art is. And so, and how cool that message is, that's not going to drive home and really aid to the community that you're trying to aid to. And so I think that's the kind of stuff I would tell Moncherie, like, Moncherie, you got all that, just go. And so that just go, because we hold up ourselves all the time. And I also saw a question in here that I just wanted to answer really quick. That person asked about volunteering, and how I was, basically giving work away for free, which wasn't what I thought. I was doing that type of stuff because I was like, yes, I'll be on this board. Yes, I'll do that. And because I didn't think I was ready, I didn't feel like I needed to charge folks. But there were times where I was like, oh my goodness, you got me working like a whole nother job here. Hold up. And so I think setting boundaries out the gate would be so that there's a good transfer. If you're doing that, no matter how much work you're doing, if you're going to say, for instance, you take on the whole marketing title and you're heading up marketing, then make sure there's a return on investment for you. It's okay, even if they're a nonprofit, to get a return on investment. Have them post you to their board, have them put you on their website, have them feature you as a leader, or whatever it turns over to help you get more exposure. I will tell you, I haven't had to market Mojo because I came to this city and spoke for free. And speaking for free to churches, to organizations, to corporations, some even corporations like Dollar General, has turned me more clients. I literally was in a speaking engagement and somebody hand me a card for $62,000 client. So I'll take that all day long from an agency side. I was on a speaking engagement yesterday and got 5 emails with RFPs. So that works. So maybe you're volunteering and you're doing side work should turn into, and let me just consult you and advise you. So that frees you up of your time a little bit more, but it gives them the return on investment that they need from you, because that's what they need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wanted to answer that for you. Go ahead.
I'm going to second guess the speaking because I love it. I've made a career out of it and a really good business, but I've also used it to position us, right? And build up your social capital really fast and get in front of audiences that you normally would not have access to. But most importantly, it positions you as an expert and thought leader in whatever lane that you are in and within your business. And so it can drastically growth hack and fast track you in ways that I can't even begin to explain when you do it the right way, right? Building the right story and then finding the right audience in which you should be presenting your thing. I've coached entrepreneurs that have gotten their first 1,000 users of their app because of how they delivered their message on stage, right? And coaches that have been able to close clients that end up being much bigger than whatever fee that they were going to charge, because it was the right target market and they got access to them and got their undivided attention for 20 to 30 minutes. And so even the way that I've raised money for the nonprofit that I founded over the past few years, I did it on stage. Because it was just all right, the introvert in me was I don't know how to start a conversation with this person across the room, but I can go and tell the story of why it's important and how they can come along with us in the journey, and we can have shared success together in what we're doing. And then I get off the stage and they come to me. And then that's how those conversations started, right? And so, and that's how I've aligned the sponsors that we've gotten for our conference over the years, really big sponsors like NBC Universal and Samsung, and Etsy was a presenting sponsor of my technology conference. Not only did they give us money, they held the entire thing in their headquarters. I used to make soap popsicles for Etsy 10 years ago. So to have them as a sponsor because of figuring out a really unique way in order to market our organization through storytelling really, really works. And I think sometimes we discount that as a marketing strategy because we think that it needs to be more complicated than it has to be. And sometimes it's just that, right? And so understanding that you can have easy money, you can have flow money, you don't have to have depressive money and sad money and difficult money. You can have flow in which revenue comes into your business if you accept that that is one of the things that you absolutely want and need in order to move forward. Again, kind of aligning your business with your lifestyle, and then really using storytelling in very unique ways to drive all of that so people understand how they can come along on the journey with you.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I don't have to say much.
No, I love that. I just wanted to match up. Yeah, we definitely are saying the same thing. I just don't want to commit fully to speaking. So I'm going to speak in my pods of qualified audiences because I know they turn into clients, but I don't want to be that, oh, I'm a speaker today because I know they got great people like you who are doing it and I love it. But I just know my time will not allow it.
Yeah, no, I always tell people find it in the lane that works for you, right? Because it's not always being the keynote speaker on the stage.
Right.
Sometimes it's being a facilitator for one of your clients. And that becomes the entry point for them to either buy your product or bring you on as a consultant or buy your marketing services because you've delivered something, you showed them your methodology, your framework, your process, and then they want that internally, right? For maybe a small team, the ERG team, or maybe their full company. Like there's so many different ways in which using that as a form of marketing and using that storytelling can really truly work for you. It's been my personal experience for sure, right? And raising millions of dollars as a result of that. Like I can attract every single one or track every single one of our high profile sponsors or clients. I would say 90% of them back to a speaking opportunity was how we engaged or connected. And then the other part of that is access to people that are on the board, who their sponsors are for those events. You get in front of those people as well, right? And so there were times where I'm just like, man, this person, they won't answer an email. I can't get them on the phone. I see that they're at an event. Well, let me see if I can be the moderator of their panel, because we're going to be able to build some rapport and build a relationship where now I don't have to worry about them ghosting me on email. They now know who I am. And we've been able to have a conversation in the green room that then led to a meeting. Like there's all these hacks that, that's just an avenue in which sometimes cold calling or a LinkedIn DM doesn't always work when you can get directly in front of the person and serve them in a way, or invite them on your podcast or your interview. Like there's all these different ways where you can kind of give them something as a platform, and then in exchange ask them for a meeting or a conversation that resulted in that being the initial connection point.
I love it.
Awesome. and so very true. It's like, why do you think Laura has a podcast? It's like, comes in very handy. There's lots of people who I want to be clients or new connections, and it's a great way for folks to show who they are. Totally, like that's what this is all about. And I think I think sometimes we think it's so complicated to get all this stuff done. It's actually not. Like it's really about putting yourselves out there and in a lane that you feel comfortable. Because no one's telling you to try and like crack open a whole new wheel, but finding your lane, and then, and as you said, like having that flow is so very important. There's so many questions. So Kelly George wanted to know, like, how do you guys know that you're kind of in your sort of genius zone? Like you're in that zone for you, or like, you're cooking with gas.
I would say I stay in my gift. But every once in a while, I think I've been told, and when folks will come up with something and they're trying to pull it together, I'm able to see maybe 10 angles of something at any given moment. And so especially 10 ways we can amplify. I stay in the amplify space. And I think that's usually when I'm in my moment, when I know I've drilled it all the way down to how they're going to actually change the world. And it had nothing to do with changing the world from the beginning. It was, how can I sell my candles? And I said, we're going to do candles. We're going to do this. And then by the time we finish, we're going to give $1 million back to the community. And so that's usually when I feel like I'm in my genius zone, when I've been able to flip something and not just do it for the clout and do it for the status and growing the brand, but actually benefiting the community that these brands are trying to be built in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it. I posted a link to it's a worksheet that anyone can go through like the zone of genius. For me, I'm a solutions driven communicator. When I speak to solve problems for communities, right? For entrepreneurs, for our clients. And that's me being in my zone of genius. And my zone of genius for me shows up in every single thing that I do, right? And so when I'm not in my zone of genius, that's when I feel really uncomfortable. I start getting like this tension and anxiety in my body. The body compass work is also something that I would recommend a lot of us do, because then you literally calibrate your body so that you can make the best decisions moving forward Martha Beck is the person to look up. I think that's the name of her book, but that's the name of her process. But for me, it's that being the ultimate contributor, because I am literally staying in my zone of genius at all times. And then it gives me boundaries and a language and a vocabulary to kind of push back on other people. And we're like, that's actually, you asked me to do that stuff, but it's not in my zone of genius. Let me connect you to this person that thing that you're asking for is their zone of genius. And in that, I still stay in my lane, and I still am a big contributor and resource to whatever that project is, because the best thing that I can do is stay where I can contribute and connect them to other people that can do the same. But go through that worksheet. I think going through that process really helps. It's a process of elimination to help you understand what your zone of genius is, and then give your genius a destination would be the next step that I recommend, which is oftentimes once we realize what we're good at, we don't then tell it where to go. Like, whatever your gift is, where do you want it to go? What new conversations do you want it to open up for you? What new rooms do you want it to be? What new doors do you want it to open? What bills do you want it to pay for? Where do you want it to send your kids to college? Where do you want it to send you to vacation? Like, these are all really important questions that we should be asking of our gifts and our genius. Don't just know what it is. Where do you want it to take you once you realize what it is I think the most important question to ask and answer, aside from what is it?
Love it. Love y'all. It's so good. And and that's the thing, like, use your strengths. And the best thing I always tell folks is, like, be that utility, because you're not going to solve every single problem, but you probably have to connect to someone who can help somebody else. And being the person who's the plug oftentimes comes in so very handy, because you're saying, listen, this is not my neck of the woods, but call Sheree. Not my neck of the woods, call Felicia. Like, and because you did that, and you led that with that degree of empathy, folks are like, yeah, I know that Laura might not know everybody, but, like, she knows how to find the person who can help me. And that value also comes in so handy for folks, because it's very rare to find people who are just kind of like, yeah, we'll give whatever you need. What do you got? And when you can be that person that folks can come to and be like, I know you'll put me in the right direction, all kinds of really great flow and projects and opportunities will always keep coming your way. Question for you, one question for you that I have. So you guys are in Nashville and Miami. And part of the reason I really wanted you all to be on this panel was because I wanted to show that's not New York or LA or Austin centric for entrepreneurship. What are the really cool things that are happening in Nashville and Miami from building businesses?
You want to go first, Nashville?
Yeah, I'll go first, Nashville. Nashville is, literally there's 17 cranes in the sky. Post-pandemic, it was probably 40 in pandemic. So we count our city's growth by cranes in the sky. I've been here 8 years, full time. And when I came here, it looked like a completely different city. These people are building like that. So we got a little bit of everything. That's why Nashville is such an interest to everybody. You get your country, you get your Silicon Valley worlds that's coming out here and living the what they think is the slow life. You still have 4 HBCUs, which people always used to ask me when I first moved here. My family, they got Black people in Nashville. They do, baby, they do. They have 4 HBCUs. Okay, 5th TSU. They are here. I'm a Harry. So you have a Black middle class, but with such a big landscape. I used to live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I always talk about how Jacksonville it was purgatory. Just no offense to Florida, but it was purgatory for a minute for me. But it was such a big landscape. Like, if I needed to go to the airport, it almost took me an hour. And being from New Orleans, we get everywhere in 20 minutes. Nashville is like that now. It's really Middle Tennessee. So from a landscape, the people who we haven't found community base. But the good thing is what we've done with the Black community, having had a historic street called Jefferson Street, and that's been around for almost 100 years, dating back to the Queen coming to Tennessee and Jimi Hendrix, et cetera, et cetera. We still have 100 Black-owned businesses on one street. And it is the best thing I've ever seen in life. And my office is there, and it was very intentional to purchase an office on that strip. And that's what I think needs amplification, and that's my choice. So we've created a network, somewhat of an ecosystem. I saw that on Felicia's website, somewhat of an ecosystem to really make sure that we are amplifying for these tourists, because we were a tourist trap up until June of last year. These folks did not care about COVID, okay? They had to force them to care about COVID. We're the #1 location for bachelorette parties. They were coming in droves, no masks, didn't care. And then now end of the year, we were like the top 3 in the world, or #1 in the world for the increase in COVID, because these folks had no sense whatsoever. But that doesn't mean they didn't bring their coin or their money. And as a result, folks were spending lots of money at the restaurants, lots of money, even if it was curbside at the bars. And the Black neighborhood didn't really get that, even though we're downtown. We now have an African American Music Museum, state of the art. It just so happened to open in the middle of a pandemic. It is basically the African American Music Museum in DC with more innovation and technology and music, but music from the root to present day. So it's going to be another attraction that people from around the world can now come to Nashville and see that it's not just country music, but look, I'm doing a spiel, honey. And then they need to hire me. But also I've created a multicultural tourism network so that all 100 of the businesses, the donut shop, the coffee house, the barber, the CBD oil spot, all of them can actually know how to market themselves to be ready for tourism when we are all open back up. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe, but hopefully, and then of course we have some heavyweights here. You know, we have the Felicias of the world who are out speaking and doing TED Talks, and we just have some great people that are in Nashville doing amazing things. Urbanite.com, if you want to learn about multicultural Nashville, look at urbanite.com. It's 2 A's. We got cookie shops. We got them all, like anything that you would think of that you were like, he makes what? He does what? I think innovation is happening in Nashville with young Black Gen Zs right now. So I see that coming.
Awesome. Thanks, Sheree. And yeah, they should hire you. Felicia, you're
Yeah, I gotta get to Nashville because I haven't been there in a few years, but you sold it in a way that I'm like, might have to risk it all to get on a plane and come vacation in Nashville. Miami is Miami, right? And Miami's going through a really interesting renaissance of a sense, as far as, like I said before, like there's this sheer amount of people and tech companies, mostly tech bros, kind of moving to Miami. But I think for the longest we sold it for its beaches, right? And it's like hospitality and restaurants, and they've gone through a very drastic shift over this past year just because of the pandemic. And so it's diverse. I always say it's diverse by default and not necessarily by intention. And I just think there's a number of players that are coming here with the intention to make it authentically diverse and truly beneficial for everyone. And then our mayor, right? Our mayor of the last 2 months has been very wild on Twitter. They actually have a billboard in the Bay Area and I think some other cities right now for people that want to come to the city, come like DM him, have a cafecito with him. But it's a place that I call home. I love the weather, but it's also a place where if you are committed to building the city and the place and the community that you want to live in, this is the place for you. If you don't want to do that, you're going to have a really hard time in Miami. And so I think when we talk about kind of the LAs and the New Yorks of the world, you don't really have to do that, right? I think there's enough going on where you can just kind of fly in or pop into the city and kind of find your vibe. Miami is really the vibe that you have to be committed to creating. And if you do, and you want to play that role, then you can have a really good quality of life here. Laura, I wanted to answer that work-life balance question really quick. I don't think work-life balance exists at all. I think you have to choose. And I think it's also a part of Miami, right? Like you're gonna have to choose, the 2 or 3 things that I think are most important to you in your life. And then you center your business and your work life around those things. I think when we don't choose and we try to have, people say women can have all things, just not at the same time. I believe that you choose the things that make you the most happy. You center your business and your life around that, and everything else you kind of schedule in as you can, and then outsource the hell out of things. I outsource everything I possibly can, from meal prep, right, to babysitter, to cleaning, to laundry. If I can buy back time, I buy back time in the form of outsourcing and taking the guilt out of that. And that really empowers other women-owned businesses or other businesses that I'm able to pay to help me. And in turn, I'm helping them. And so I think as much as we can get the guilt out of that, the business goals that we have can either happen on time or happen much faster as a result of us kind of outsourcing in a very strategic way your home life and your work life in order to stay in your zone of genius.
Awesome. Okay, so really quick fun thing. You guys are amazing. I love you. Remember how I said that I signed that contract for that huge client? I actually have that meeting now. So we're gonna switch, and Felicia Stinkone from my fellow co-leader is gonna take the because obviously you guys generated so many amazing questions. We hope we kind of keep going for a few more minutes, but you guys are fantastic. You know, I adore you both. And keep going. So Felicia, all yours. Stinkone, go.
Okay, so I'm now known as AKA the other Felicia.
Yeah.
So every time Laura asked you a question, Felicia, I was like, wait a second.
Right.
Wait,
Yeah.
Right.
That was so weird. So thanks, Laura. Laura, those were great questions. You're such a pro at the interview.
Yes.
I want to thank everyone for being here. I'm not sure. I mean, thank you to all of you that hung in there. People were dropping. You know, they didn't want to go. They were like, sorry, this was so inspiring. I've got to go. I can't say enough to Sheree and Felicia about how grateful we are for the time you've given us. This is the longest Q&A we've actually ever had and the most participatory. So thank you so much. A lot of times people are introverts and they're kind of shy and they don't get their questions out there. So thank you so much. You really have inspired all of us. I just have to say on a personal note, my daughter was on this call and I watched her face through the entire call. And she is so inspired by the two of you. So it's interesting that a lot of us are here and we're like mid-career or starting our career or on our third career, or for me, like my fourth career. But to see her reaction to all of you and see how inspired she was, I saw her furiously taking down notes. So keep sharing your magic. We are going to invite you to do other things with us. I think we as an organization can learn so much from the two of you. And Sheree, if I ever need a PR person, I'm calling you, because that was a furiously inspiring sell of your city.
Thank you.
I think we should go on a group vacation.
Listen, come on. And y'all can definitely have lunch at my office. We have red beans every Monday.
Okay, cannot wait. And Felicia, we need you to help Fly Female Founders raise some funding. So if you ever want to do a side hustle and help us get our speaking energy together, we would love that. But thank you to everyone for sticking on the call and participating. We can't wait to have you back at our next events. Hit our website, flyfemalefounders.org. I can't believe I said hit our website. That is so not me. Go to our website. We're trying to put up our calendar of events moving forward. And again, look out for Sheree and Felicia, because we're going to have them back in some way, shape, or form. So thank you
for having me.
Thank you.
Please connect online, everybody. I would love to connect further.
We will. Take care, ladies.
Have a good one.